The pills were in my hand when someone knocked on the door. I didn't move at first. The storm hammered the windows, rain streaking down like tears I'd run out of months ago. Who comes to a dead man's house at midnight? I'd already written the note, already said goodbye to the ghost of my daughter that lived in every corner of this place. The knock came again, harder. I opened the door to a man I'd never seen before, mid-50s, drenched, his eyes desperate. "Mr. Round," he gasped. "Your daughter. She's alive." I should have slammed the door. Should have cursed him for the cruelest joke a stranger ever played. But something in his face stopped me. Terror. Relief. Truth. "Lily's dead," I whispered. "I buried her." "No." He shoved a phone in my face. The screen lit up the darkness between us. It was her. Older, thinner, but her. Those eyes, Lily's eyes, staring back at me from a hospital bed somewhere far away. My knees buckled. The pills scattered across the floor like forgotten prayers. "Get in the car," the man said. I didn't ask questions. Didn't grab a coat. I followed him into the storm like a man already dead. Because what did I have to lose? If this was a lie, I'd finish what I started. If it was true, God, if it was true. "My name is Thomas Bray," he said as we drove through the night. Rain blurred the highway into ribbons of light. "I work in medical auditing. 3 weeks ago, I found discrepancies in organ donor records from a Seattle hospital. Your daughter's name appeared twice, once as deceased, once as a patient transferred to a private clinic in San Diego." "That's impossible." My voice cracked. I identified her body. I held her hand. She was cold. Thomas gripped the wheel tighter. The night of the crash, there were 2 girls. Similar age, similar build. The other family, they were wealthy, connected. Their daughter needed immediate care, but she was in worse condition. Somehow, in the chaos, the records got mixed. Your daughter was taken to their private facility. The girl you buried. Stop. Couldn't breathe. The air in the car felt like water filling my lungs. Why didn't anyone tell me? Because nobody knew. The clinic operates under strict confidentiality agreements. I only discovered it because I'm auditing their parent company for fraud. When I saw the name Lily Round flagged as alive in their system, I checked the death certificate. They didn't match. He glanced at me. "I tried calling your listed number. It was disconnected. I canceled my phone 2 weeks ago. Couldn't afford it. Couldn't stand hearing Megan's voicemails anymore, telling me to move on, to stop grieving so loudly." "Does she know?" I whispered. "Does Lily know what happened?" Thomas's silence was answer enough. We drove for 6 hours. I watched the sunrise through tears I didn't know I still had. By the time we reached the clinic, a sprawling white building hidden behind palm trees and security gates, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely open the car door. "Wait." Thomas grabbed my arm. "There's something else you need to know. The trauma from the accident, she has amnesia. She doesn't remember the crash. Doesn't remember you." The words hit like a second funeral. "But," Thomas continued, pulling out a folder, "I brought everything I could find. Photos, school records, anything that might help her remember." A nurse led us through sterile hallways that smelled like antiseptic and money. Everything was too clean, too perfect. How many months had my daughter been here while I sat in the dark planning my death? They stopped me outside a room with a window. She sat in a chair by the window, staring out at a garden I couldn't see. 16 now, not the 15-year-old I'd lost. Her hair was shorter. She looked thinner, haunted, but alive, breathing, real. "We've been calling her Jane," the nurse said softly. She couldn't remember her name. I wanted to scream, wanted to tear the building down brick by brick. Instead, I pushed open the door. She turned. Those eyes, Lily's eyes, my mother's eyes, studied me like I was a stranger. "Hi," I managed. My voice was barely human. "My name is Michael." She nodded politely. Nothing. No recognition. I sat down across from her, my heart breaking in new ways I didn't know existed. Thomas had given me the folder. I opened it with trembling hands and pulled out a photo. Lily at 12, holding the moon-shaped nightlight I'd given her for her birthday. "Do you remember this?" I asked. She stared at the photo for a long time. No, but... Her voice was soft, uncertain. Someone used to say something to me, in my dreams, about the moon. Hope flared in my chest like a match in the dark. The moon never sleeps, I whispered. Our phrase, the thing I'd told her every night when she was scared of the dark. Her eyes went wide. Tears spilled down her cheeks. Dad, I broke, crossed the space between us and held her like I'd held her the day she was born. She shook in my arms, sobbing, and I realized we were both ghosts learning how to be alive again. I'm here, I whispered into her hair. I'm here. I'm never letting go again. The first week was harder than I expected. Lily came home to a house that should have felt familiar but didn't. She stood in the doorway of her old room, staring at the posters on the walls, the books on the shelves, the stuffed rabbit on the bed. All of it like artifacts from someone else's life. I'm sorry, she whispered. I want to remember. Don't apologize. I touched her shoulder carefully, still afraid she might disappear. We'll make new memories. But the truth was I was drowning. The medical bills from the clinic arrived in thick envelopes I couldn't open. They wanted payment for months of care I never authorized. Care that should have been covered by insurance that didn't recognize her as alive. The bureaucracy was a nightmare. Death certificates that needed reversing, legal paperwork that didn't have a template for resurrection. I sold everything I could. The car, my father's watch, furniture that had been in our family for generations. It wasn't enough. That's when Thomas showed up again. He knocked the same way he had that first night, urgent, determined. When I opened the door, he had a briefcase and a look I couldn't read. We need to talk, he said. We sat at the kitchen table while Lily slept upstairs. Thomas spread papers between us like playing cards in a game I didn't understand. The clinic that had Lily, they're owned by a corporation called Meridian Health, he said. I've been digging deeper into their records. What happened to your daughter wasn't an accident, Michael. It was intentional. My blood went cold. What are you saying? The other family, the Castellanos, they're major donors to Meridian. When their daughter was in the crash, they needed her stabilized immediately for a specific treatment. But there was confusion at the scene. Your daughter was healthier, stronger. Someone made a choice. He tapped one of the papers. They took Lily and listed her under their daughter's insurance. They were going to use her as a medical proxy until they realized the mistake weeks later. Then why didn't they tell anyone? My hands curled into fists. Why let me think she was dead? Because admitting it would destroy them. Meridian would face lawsuits, criminal charges. The Castellanos would lose everything. So they kept her in their facility, listed as a Jane Doe, hoping she'd never remember. Hoping no one would ever connect the dots. I stood up so fast the chair fell backward. I'll kill them. No. Thomas grabbed my arm. You'll sue them, and you'll win. I have everything we need, internal memos, financial records, testimony from staff who were paid to stay quiet. But I need your permission to move forward. This will get ugly. They have lawyers, money, influence. Could take years. I looked at the ceiling, thinking of Lily asleep upstairs. She'd already lost so much. Did I have the right to drag her through a legal war? What do you get out of this? I asked Thomas. Why are you helping me? He was quiet for a long moment. Because your father, Harold Round, was my half-brother. Same father, different mothers. He never acknowledged me, never let me into the family. When I found out what happened to Lily, I saw a chance to do something right. To be the family I never had. The revelation hit me sideways. My father never mentioned you. He wouldn't have. I was the secret his father kept. But that doesn't change the fact that we're blood. Thomas met my eyes. Let me help you, Michael. Let me be the uncle Lily deserves. I thought about my parents who'd blamed me for everything, who'd turned their backs when I needed them most. And here was a man who owed me nothing, offering everything. Okay, I said, let's burn them down. Over the next months, Thomas became part of our lives in ways I never expected. He taught Lily chess, helped her with the schoolwork she'd missed, sat with me through the depositions and court hearings that drained what little energy I had left. The case moved slowly, but the evidence was overwhelming. Meridian's lawyers tried to settle quietly, but Thomas pushed for public accountability. The story hit the news. Girl buried alive in bureaucratic nightmare. Donations poured in. Lily's medical bills were covered. The Castellanos' empire began to crumble. But the hardest part wasn't the legal battle. It was calling my parents. I stared at my phone for an hour before I could dial. My mother answered on the third ring. Michael. Her voice was careful, guarded. We hadn't spoken since the funeral, since she'd told me I was weak for crying, that real men carried their grief differently. Lily's alive, I said. No preamble. No warmth. Silence. Then, what kind of sick joke? It's not a joke, Mom. She was misidentified at the crash, taken to a private clinic. I have her back. My voice shook despite my best efforts. I thought you should know your granddaughter didn't die. I heard her breath catch, heard my father's voice in the background asking what was wrong, then crying raw, broken sounds I'd never heard from her before. Where is she? My mother finally managed. Home. With me. Where she's always belonged. Michael, she stopped, started again. We were wrong. What we said to you. How we blamed you. I wake up every night thinking about it. Your father does too, he just won't admit it. I wanted to feel vindicated. Wanted the apology to fix something. But all I felt was tired. You can meet her, I said. But on my terms. And if you ever make her feel like she's a burden, like her pain isn't valid, we're done. Permanently. We'll do better, my mother whispered. I promise. They came the next weekend. My father looked older than I remembered. His shoulders bent like he'd been carrying something too heavy for too long. My mother brought Lily's favorite cookies. The recipe she'd made when Lily was small, before everything fell apart. Lily stood at the top of the stairs, uncertain. She didn't remember them, but she knew what they represented. The grandparents who'd abandoned her father when he needed them most. Hi, my mother said, her voice breaking. You probably don't know us anymore, sweetheart, but we know you. And we're so sorry. My father just cried. This man who'd called me weak, who'd said I wasn't strong enough to protect my family. He stood in my living room and sobbed like a child. It didn't fix everything, but it was a start. The harder conversation was with Megan. She didn't believe me at first when I called. Laughed, actually. Is this some kind of scheme to get money from me? Because I'm done enabling your self-pity, Michael. Turn on the news, I said flatly. Channel 7. We did an interview this morning. I hung up. 20 minutes later, she called back. No laughter this time. How long have you known? She demanded. How long have you had her while I thought she was dead? 3 months. And I didn't call sooner because I was protecting her. From you. From me? I'm her mother. You didn't come to her funeral, Megan. You sent flowers and a card that said, sorry for your loss, like she was a distant cousin. You don't get to play the grieving mother now. Silence. Then quieter. I want to see her. That's up to Lily. When I asked Lily if she wanted to meet her mother, she stared out the window for a long time. I don't remember her, she finally said. But I remember feeling not wanted, like I was always too much. You were never too much, I said fiercely. Never. I'll meet her, Lily decided. But I need you there. Megan arrived in a car that cost more than my house. She wore designer clothes and practiced sympathy. Her new husband waited in the car, scrolling through his phone. When Lily came downstairs, Megan's composure cracked. Baby, she whispered, reaching out. Lily stepped back. I don't know you. I'm your mother. No. Lily's voice was steady, stronger than I'd heard in months. You're the woman who gave birth to me. But she pointed at me. He's the one who came looking. He's the one who never stopped believing. So don't walk in here with your expensive bag and your fake tears thinking you can claim me now. Megan's face went white. Lily, my name is Lily Round, she interrupted. And I'm staying with my dad. Megan left 10 minutes later. I watched her car disappear down the street and felt something settle in my chest. Not quite peace, but close. That night, Thomas came over with takeout and stories about his own childhood, the one where he watched our family from the outside, wishing he belonged. Lily asked him questions about her grandfather, filling in gaps I'd never thought to explain. "Your family now," Lily told him. "The good kind." Thomas smiled, and I saw tears in his eyes. "The best kind," he agreed. The trial took 8 months. 8 months of lawyers dissecting the worst night of our lives. 8 months of watching the Castellanos sit across the courtroom in their expensive suits, their faces carefully blank while their attorneys argued that what happened was a regrettable administrative error rather than criminal negligence. Thomas sat with us every day. He'd compiled enough evidence to bury them. Internal emails showing staff were ordered to keep Lily's true identity quiet. Financial records proving the Castellanos paid hush money. Testimony from nurses who'd been threatened into silence. But the hardest moment came when Lily had to take the stand. She'd been doing better. Therapy helped. The memories were slowly returning. Fragments at first, then full scenes. She remembered our Saturday morning pancakes. Remembered the history lessons I'd turn into stories to make her laugh. Remembered the crash itself, though those memories came with nightmares that left her shaking. The defense attorney was a shark in a tailored suit. He smiled at Lily like she was a friend. "Miss Rown, isn't it true that the clinic provided you with excellent medical care? Care that may have saved your life?" Lily's hands trembled in her lap. "Yes, but... And isn't it possible that what happened was simply a tragic mix-up rather than malicious intent?" I wanted to stand up to tell him to back off. Thomas put a hand on my arm, holding me in place. "It stopped being a mix-up," Lily said, her voice gaining strength. "The moment they realized who I was and chose to keep me hidden. My dad thought I was dead. I woke up not knowing my own name. That's not a mix-up. That's a choice." The courtroom was silent. "They took 6 months of my life," Lily continued. 6 months my dad spent wanting to die because he thought I was gone. You can't fix that with money or apologies or calling it an error. They knew what they were doing. The defense attorney had no response. The jury deliberated for 3 days. When they came back, the forewoman stood and read the verdict with a voice that echoed through the room. "In the matter of Round versus Meridian Health and the Castellano family, we find the defendants liable for gross negligence, emotional distress, and conspiracy to conceal. We award the plaintiff compensatory damages in the amount of $4.2 million and punitive damages in the amount of $8 million. I heard the number but couldn't process it. Beside me, Lily grabbed my hand. Thomas let out a breath he'd been holding for months. The Castellanos' faces finally showed emotion. Rage, fear, disbelief. Their empire was crumbling in real time. But the money didn't matter as much as what came next. Meridian Health's CEO resigned. Federal investigators opened cases into their other facilities. 3 executives were arrested. The laws around patient identification and family notification were revised in 17 states. Lily's story became the reason why systems changed. We used some of the settlement to buy a new house, one without ghosts in every corner. A place by the ocean where Lily said the sound of waves helped her sleep. My parents visited regularly now. My father taught Lily woodworking in the garage, making up for lost time with sawdust and quiet conversations. My mother sent care packages and called every Sunday, not to criticize but to listen. Thomas moved to a place nearby. He became the uncle Lily had never had, teaching her to drive, helping her study for college entrance exams, showing up to every school event with a camera and embarrassing enthusiasm. One evening, about a year after the trial ended, Lily and I walked along the beach near our house. The sun was setting, painting the water in shades of gold and red. "Do you ever think about that night?" she asked. "The storm, the pills." I told her everything eventually. She deserved the truth. "Every day," I admitted. "I think about how close I came to missing this. Missing you. I'm glad you opened the door." "Me too." She picked up a shell, turned it over in her hands. "Thomas told me something yesterday. He said the reason he kept digging into the records, even when it was dangerous, was because he'd spent his whole life being invisible to our family. He didn't want that to happen to me." He's a good man. The best. She threw the shell into the water. I'm thinking about studying medical ethics in college. Maybe I can help make sure what happened to us doesn't happen to other families. Pride swelled in my chest. Your mother would be proud. My mother didn't come to my funeral, Lily said without bitterness. But you never stopped fighting for me, even when you thought I was gone. That's what I'll remember. We stood there as the sun disappeared below the horizon, and I realized something profound. Forgiveness came slowly, like dawn after the longest night. I didn't wake up one morning suddenly able to forgive my parents, or Megan, or even myself for the months I'd spent drowning in grief instead of searching harder. Forgiveness was something I had to choose every day, sometimes every hour. My father and I were working in the garage one Saturday when he finally said what he'd been holding back for months. I was afraid, he admitted, sanding a piece of wood that would become a bookshelf for Lily. When you were grieving, when you were falling apart, I saw myself in you. I lost my first daughter, your sister who died before you were born. I never dealt with it, just buried it and kept moving. When I saw you breaking, I got angry because I was terrified of feeling that pain again. I stopped measuring the board in my hands. I didn't know you had a daughter before me. Catherine. She was 2 months old. Sudden infant death syndrome. His voice cracked. Your mother and I never talked about it. We just pretended she never existed and had you a year later. I thought that was strength. Turned out it was just cowardice. I'm sorry, Dad. Don't be sorry. I'm the one who failed you. He set down the sandpaper. But I'm here now. If you'll let me be, I'll let you be. Megan never came back after that first visit, but she sent letters. Long ones at first, full of explanations and justifications. Then shorter ones, simpler. Eventually just, I'm sorry. I hope you're both happy. Lily read them but never responded. Maybe someday, she told me. But not today. I learned to be okay with that. Thomas became the cornerstone of our new life. He helped Lily through college applications and celebrated when she got accepted to Johns Hopkins for bioethics. He taught me how to invest the settlement money so we'd be secure for decades. He showed up every Thursday for dinner, bringing terrible jokes and genuine love. One Thursday, about 2 years after the trial, he arrived with a woman. This is Patricia, he said, almost shy. We met at a hospital fundraiser. Patricia had kind eyes and a firm handshake. She was a retired nurse who'd spent 40 years in emergency medicine. Over dinner, she and Lily talked about medical ethics and patient advocacy with such intensity that Thomas and I just sat back and watched. She's good for him, Lily whispered to me while we cleaned up. Yeah, I agreed. He deserves good. Life continued. Lily graduated high school with honors. Started college with a determination that amazed me. She wanted to change systems to protect families like ours from falling through the cracks. My parents became fixtures in our lives, present but not overbearing. My mother learned to apologize when she overstepped. My father learned to say, I love you, without flinching. I went back to teaching, part-time at first, then full-time when Lily left for college. History felt different now. Every story of resilience, every tale of survival had new weight. Some nights I still thought about that storm, about the pills on the floor, about how close I came to ending my story before its best chapters were written. The darkest part of grief is how it lies. It tells you that the pain will never end, that nothing will ever matter again, that the world is better off without you. But grief doesn't know the future. It doesn't know about second chances or found family or daughters who come back from the dead. On Lily's 21st birthday, we gathered at the beach house. Me, Lily, Thomas, Patricia, my parents, and a few of Lily's friends from college. We lit candles in the sand and watched the waves roll in under a full moon. Make a wish, someone said. Lily closed her eyes, then opened them and looked at me. I don't need to wish. I have everything I wanted. Thomas raised his glass. To family, the ones we're born into and the ones we choose. To second chances, my father added quietly. To knocking on doors in storms, Lily said with a small smile. We drank and laughed and told stories as the moon climbed higher. Later, when everyone had gone inside, Lily and I sat on the porch watching the ocean. She leaned against my shoulder like she had when she was small. "The moon never sleeps," I whispered. "Neither does love," she replied. And I realized that was the truth I'd learned through all of this. Love doesn't die when people do. It doesn't end when families fall apart or when systems fail or when life takes everything you thought you couldn't live without. Love is the knock on the door when you're holding pills in your hand. It's the stranger who becomes family. It's the daughter who fights her way back to you. It's the father who opens the door even when he thinks there's nothing left worth living for. I used to teach history, used to believe that the important stories were the ones in textbooks. But the most important story I ever lived is this one. The one where everything fell apart and then, slowly, impossibly, came back together. Not perfect, not without scars, but alive. And that's enough.